Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Cup of Joe podcast with Joe Aguirre, Matt Stevens, and Seth Blair.
It is time for the Week in Review in Sound. I'm Joe Aguirre along with Seth Blair and Matt Stevens. We are back podcasting, and we're going to take a look. It's been so crazy over the past few weeks. We haven't done a podcast since March 10th for a variety of reasons, but we are back. I listened to our last podcast, Seth, and was shocked at how everything we talked about on March 10th has completely come to fruition, including a special prosecutor, including Jared Kushner being under investigation. And the heat really turned up on Jeff Sessions, who, and I've said this before, and I'll say this again, I believe will be the first domino to fall in this administration.
Now, Jeff Sessions he's the Attorney General. Now, the Deputy Attorney General also is playing in there. I know Rosenstein's been unhappy as well with Trump. They both threatened to resign in different cases. This is certainly heating up in the very least amount of way.
Now, Rod Rosenstein, who's the Assistant Attorney General, is the one who appointed the special prosecutor, Robert Mueller. And we were talking about this before the podcast started, Matt and I. This investigation's been going on with the FBI for more than a year. So much so that Rosenstein saw the need to appoint a special prosecutor. Here's the thing. If the FBI had investigated for 3 months or 6 months or even 9 months and saw no evidence of collusion or anything, they would have ended the investigation. So we're pretty sure something's going on. You watch the intelligence chiefs; they've all been. I know Coates and Mike Rogers testified 2 days ago. In that testimony, they talked about Trump trying to get the investigation ended, which, I mean, we're really pushing the envelope of obstruction of justice. I think that's quite clear at this point. When they're asked questions that are yes or no, they seem to be able to answer some questions. And then when it comes to questions like, is the president under investigation, they can't answer that question in an open setting. So the answer is not no. And that's a little bit frightening.
Yeah, but Trump tweeted that nothing's going on, so case closed.
Now, yesterday, he was in Iowa.
Yeah, Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
And he had a lot to say.
A lot of familiar things to say, I guess.
Well, that's his thing.
And you know, I used to say it during the campaign. I'm sure it hasn't changed. But we're not even campaigning, and look at this crowd. So, you know, it's easier during a campaign. The place is packed with thousands of people trying to get in. Look at the size of this place. They'll never show the crowd. They'll never show the crowd. They'll never show the crowd. Every seat is packed. Look at that. Every seat. Every corner is packed of this big arena, so it's an honor. Wouldn't it be great if they showed? You know, it's funny. I'd go home and my wife would say, Melania, who, by the way, has become very popular. They're liking her. They're liking her. But she'd say, I never saw the crowd, but it sounded like a lot of people. You know, you can tell. You can't imitate the sound of this many people.
Yes, you can. You most certainly can. I've got a CD of sound effects, and there's like 13 different versions of huge crowd sounds.
Dude, could this guy finish a thought? Can this guy finish one thought?
They're all very choppy.
You know?
He gets about a third of the way through a
And
lot
then
of
he
thoughts,
gets
so
to
you got to give him
right,
credit.
Exactly.
I think he's going for quantity, not necessary quality or
Certainly not
finished
quality.
thought.
Let me just correct something he said, by the way. Melania has never not been popular. It's not her who we have issue with. And can we all agree on that? As Democrats and Republicans, Melania's cool.
She's very popular when she slaps his hands away.
Ever since the hand slap went viral, she's extremely popular. Now, look, here we are. It's the middle of June, and this guy is still talking about crowd size.
And his campaign, running a campaign.
Right. You are not running a campaign. You're now running a country. I don't understand what is the obsession with popularity and crowd size.
I think he just wants to be like, I won. He just wants to make sure everyone understands 7 months later that he won the election.
He needs to be adored. I think there's a real adoration problem. You saw at this cabinet meeting. I can certainly find the sound of that.
Oh, dude, yes, I saw it. Where they're just like,
praises.
Mr. President,
I believe
we're so
that
honored to be in front of you.
I believe that was a circle jerk.
It really
Just,
was
just
terrible.
Republican style, fully clothed.
Yeah, it was-
Yeah, no, that was weird. You know, listen, if you're gonna have
that was weird. Wasn't it?
if you're
That
gonna
was
have an
weird.
all hands on deck meeting like that, don't stage it much more beyond just having them all in the room like that for the cameras.
I saw a great cartoon where it was this guy bowing down to Kim Jong Un, and he was going, "Oh, great leader," and Kim Jong Un was like, "Hey, calm down, I'm not Trump."
Man, here's the worst part of what I think really is going on is, I mean, the Republicans are trying to push through the repeal and replacement of Obamacare,
Which they've been trying to do since long before Trump was ever in office.
which is
Paul
true.
Ryan,
It's
it's been his mission in life.
It is his mission in life. It's something that guy really wants to do because, and this is what I don't understand, and this is where, when we talk to Trump supporters, I think they just don't
Trumpeters.
they don't have a firm grasp of what is actually going to happen. I know a lot of senior citizens. I know people with pre-existing conditions who believe that this new health care bill is going to be so amazing and they're going to pay so little money. They can't
The
believe
streets
it.
will be paved with gold.
But if I may, a lot of these people are consuming news from primarily one news source that's telling them all the time, and it's hard to get out of that bubble. I was speaking with a friend who was really frustrated at their own father, trying to understand his point of view about specifically healthcare and Trump. This is a person who, and obviously it's an anecdote, this doesn't speak for all Trump supporters, but would turn off the TV if anything critical of the president came on, and that's scary to me.
Yeah.
From a freedom of speech and a freedom of thought perspective in our country, to have people kind of self-selecting to not know the truth. I don't know. I don't know what that says about where we are as a country, as a
But
society.
I mean, people do that on both sides. Both sides do
Certainly.
that. I mean, I love Obama, but a lot of people, would say, "Oh well, okay, I'm not going to listen to anything critical about Obama."
As somebody who watched a lot of Fox News over the years, and I have, I was a Republican. Really, I'm telling you, when Trump came on the scene, that's when I knew it was time to go. I thought in a million years they would never win the White House.
Right, nobody
but that
did.
was it for me.
That's
because
a joke.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like when the dumb kid in school decides to run and everybody gets behind him. It's like a joke.
Right.
That's what it felt.
I
like.
don't think he ever thought he was going to win.
Oh, I don't think so either. But I think there were a lot of people who were mocking him. Now, this is one of the things that has always bugged me out was people like Paul Ryan, people like
Mitch McConnell.
in general, yes.
there are a lot of Republicans who you remember after Trump got to the necessary votes to win the nomination, they were like, I don't know if I'm going to back him in the election.
Right. Paul Ryan.
Oh, Paul Ryan's going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Sure you are. Oh, no. You're going to vote for Jill Stein.
No, the best was.
Give me a break.
The best was when he accused Ted Cruz's father of killing JFK, and then a couple weeks later, Ted Cruz is making calls for Trump.
Does anybody remember when Howard Dean made that noise?
Yeah.
California, and his career
it was done.
ended that day.
It was done.
His cold career ended that very day. That was the last
do
time
remember
we've
that.
ever seen or heard from him again.
Meanwhile,
He lives in obscurity now.
bing, bing, bong, bing. We haven't heard a lot of that recently.
Bing, bing, bong, bing, bong, bing.
That's important.
The same man who said he could shoot people on Fifth Avenue.
Dude,
Who also suggested the Second Amendment people do something about Hillary Clinton.
I don't understand how it didn't end when he made fun of the special needs reporter. I mean, how was it not over right then?
Well, I think that's the problem, and that's, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but recently, Ivanka Trump, who, Matt, I know you like.
I mean, I don't hate her.
Seth, how do you feel about Ivanka Trump?
I feel like I would like her if she were actually her own person. but I don't feel like she's her own person. I feel like she is definitely a mouthpiece for Trump and perhaps more of a parental figure
in more ways than one, eh?
Yeah, no.
For Ivanka Trump to suggest that she can't understand where all the hatred
Yeah,
is. Where all this
exactly.
Where's all this hatred been bubbling up from? I don't
didn't
get
say
it.
she didn't understand it. She said what she said. They were not expecting so much hatred, which really blows my mind.
So when the day after inauguration, you knew like half the country was going to come out and protest. You didn't suspect on the 21st that maybe things are going to be a little rocky.
When they were burning and hanging Obama in effigy, 4 years ago, 4 years prior, when they shot JFK in the head, like, did you not think that maybe there might be people out there that might hate you? Oh, no, it'll be fine.
I think what bothers me a lot about Ivanka Trump is she does strike you as an intelligent person. She can speak in full sentences, as we discussed. It's hard for her father. She has thoughts that make sense. You can agree with her. If you put your mind in that place, it makes sense.
She seems like a smart businesswoman.
The problem is that she uses it for evil to be a cliche like that.
There's been this
She's
thought.
a Sith Lord.
There's been this thought all along because we know they were registered Democrats, and we assume that they're liberally minded. She and Jared Kushner, but we don't know anything about them.
Except that Jared Kushner has been assigned to fix the world.
Two most senior advisors, and yes, the son-in-law who he's asked to solve all of the problems of the world.
Peace in Middle East, Jared. You'll take that care of that over the weekend.
Do you know what Jared Kushner's job is before the White House? Real estate agent.
Okay. I honestly didn't know. I had no idea.
I mean, I've got my real estate license. I'm a real estate agent.
So, Joe,
I don't think I could solve the crisis in the Middle East.
All right. Well,
nothing I've done
Don't
in
sell
real
yourself
estate
short,
school,
buddy.
nothing I learned in real estate school would prepare me
You don't know
for
that.
solving. Trust me on this
You
one.
should try.
But so here is what Jared Kushner is up to this week.
Trump's son-in-law and advisor Jared Kushner plans to travel to the Mideast today on Wednesday to jumpstart a U.S.-led peace effort. Kushner will spearhead the push for negotiations between the Israelis and Palestinians.
Who's got their money on Jared Kushner solving
I'm confident.
this like 60-year-long, really thousands-year-long problem?
All right, guys, put
in
down
the
your
Middle
guns.
East?
Jared Kushner's going to be here tomorrow. We all got to be on our best behavior.
Maybe they can coalesce around hating Jared Kushner.
That's our best hope at this point. I mean, I really. First of all, does anybody think
I just like saying
that
Kushner.
Donald Trump's whole thing, right? America first, make America great again, blah, blah, blah. That's great, and we should. America should be a great country, and we're not. We're not.
I
we're
take
not as,
issue with that.
We're not as great as we can be. We're not as great as we've been before. Listen, that's no knock on Obama or on Trump. We're about to kick 23 million people off their health insurance plans.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not a great country.
When you've got cops killing the black Mr. Rogers, maybe it's not the greatest country in the world.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Here's my issue with that is I really do think that America provides the opportunity for these political problems to be solved. The problem is, as people, we don't solve them. I feel like the country itself as a whole really is a lot better than our political decisions that we're making as a country, as an electoral system. We are great. I think that we don't need to be made great again. I think America is always improving. That's why we have amendments, and maybe it's time for that. I've been pushing for a constitutional convention for a while. We'll see if that happens. But America is great. We can do this.
The idea of America is great.
Uh-oh.
That's what I think. I mean, listen, we live in one of the most pure democracies on the planet Earth, a place where there is opportunity. There's opportunity for everybody, and unfortunately, in a lot of instances, though, there's people that get caught somewhere in there, somewhere in the mix.
Yeah.
Having the problem we have, and then again, how is being pro Black Lives Matter, how can I not be also pro law enforcement? Why can't I want both of those things?
Yeah, it's very true.
Because I do. Listen, I think what we've seen from these 3 court cases this past week, where all the police officers were found not guilty, I mean, I think we inherently, as a country, want to protect our police officers, and I think we should.
Of course.
That's a very dangerous job. However, It's like being a doctor or an airplane pilot, man. One mistake, you're not good anymore.
Yep.
I'm serious when I say this. There's no room for error in those jobs. If you're a doctor and people die on the table, nobody's going to want you to operate on them anymore.
Right.
If you're a pilot and you crash your plane, you're probably dead.
Or an airline, air traffic controller.
Air traffic controller,
I mean,
sure.
it's like,
you're done.
I think that's like the most stressful job in the world, right?
It's
Air traffic
got to
controller.
be the most stressful job in the world. Or it's police officer. You know, what we've seen is police officers tend to fire first and ask questions later. And that seems like that's been a problem. And it seems like it's mostly a problem when the individual is black.
Absolutely.
And obviously that's disturbing.
It really is.
There is this kind of training to shoot first mentality, and I've always been astounded when officers will go up to a car. Obviously, the minority of officers, we should qualify all this with this doesn't represent all of police officers in any way.
Absolutely not.
But when you see an individual officer go up to someone defenseless, strapped in a seatbelt even, and not retreat first, I always thought that part of staying safe as a police officer is finding cover, being safe in that regard, instead of going out and being safe by neutralizing the target, which is essentially what happens way more often than not in some of these cases.
Who was the guy that was on the ground? It was like, remember that guy? He was on the ground. He was literally on the ground with his arms up, and the guy shot him anyway.
Right, that was in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Why did you shoot me?" And the cop said, "I don't know." I mean, that's his response. I don't know.
I thought I needed.
I don't know why I shot
But now
him.
here's the bigger problem with this issue: is you have literally now pro police or pro Black Lives Matter, and it seems like by and large Republicans pro police, Democrats by and large pro Black Lives Matter. We're both looking at a situation that needs a fixing, and we can't even agree on that. You know, you got people on the left, they want to, all cops are racist. You got people on the right, all black people deserve to get shot. Right. I mean, to me, that seems to be the mentality. How could somebody like Philando Castile deserve to be shot in that situation when he did everything you're supposed to do? Officer, I'm legally carrying a weapon, just so you know. Should not be followed with bam, bam, bam. That shouldn't happen.
I agree, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that man because he was a hero to his community. But I don't understand why he started off with "I have a gun in the car." Like, why don't you just wait and just put your hands on the wheel and don't say anything and let the cops do what they got to do instead of being like, "I have a gun in the car," and he's reaching for it.
Do you think it would have been better for the cop to find that during the course of the stop?
It would have been better for Philando Castile. He'd still be alive right now.
Well, we don't know that.
Well,
we don't know that.
These are important points, though. In a lot of states, you have to tell. Like, the first thing out of your mouth has to be, "I have a registered firearm in the vehicle." I don't know if that's the case in that specific state.
But the next thing is not, okay, bam, 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 bam.
Exactly. They should be trained to respond to the laws. They shouldn't just shoot whenever they feel like it when someone is trying to follow the law the best they can.
And I think, and I hate to say this as a 6'2" white American male, but I think if it had been a white guy, that wouldn't have happened.
Well, unfortunately, that's pretty clear from data. The small amount of data we have, we really don't even have concrete
and yet the people
data
who
on
do
this.
these mass shootings are white American males.
Here's the thing. When I get pulled over, and it happens fairly regularly.
Really?
Yeah, you'd be very surprised. I don't know. I don't know if it's my olive skin tone or whatever the case may be.
That must be what it is.
Or maybe it's
I'll pull this guy over. He's olive.
Maybe it's my poor driving. I don't know what it is. But typically, police officer comes out, and it's 50-50. I'm either bouncing out of there, all good, slow it down, bud. I get that one a lot. Or it's a ticket, or maybe even a warning. I've gotten a few warning tickets, which are great.
Joe's like, "You guys pull me over all the time, and half the time I'm not drunk."
As a black person, you have a 1 in 7 chance that you're going to be assaulted by the police officer.
1 in 7.
Correct.
I can't even. I
can't even imagine what that's like.
50-50. I'm bouncing out of here like, whew, sucker.
So
You know what I mean? Or if I'm black, I've got a 1 in 7 chance that he's
There's
going to
some
take his
people outdoors
nightstick
that
and
wanna
crack
talk to
me
you,
over
though.
the skull.
I can't, as from my background, I can't imagine seeing the police lights in the rearview mirror and then fearing
thinking,
for my life.
I'm gonna die. Right.
There's a
exactly.
good possibility this ends in my death. I can't even imagine what that feels
But
like.
I'll tell you what, I got pulled over in January. My car was unregistered and uninsured, and they were not nice to me. And they had me up against my car, and I thought I was being arrested. I really did. And the guy said to me, "Have you ever been arrested for drugs before?" And I was like, "I've never been arrested for anything before, and I don't want to start now, you know." But I mean, they went through. Do you mind if I search your car for drugs? Yeah, go ahead. Nothing in my car, and they went through my car like they owned it. Okay, so I mean, they weren't nice, and they're not your friends. They're not your buddies. They're not your pals. Okay, they have a job to do, and you are the enemy. That's how they approach it, regardless of race, creed, color. You know, you're the enemy.
And we can talk about whether or not they should go after, the police officers should go after those situations as if the citizen is the enemy. But at least applying that equally across the board would be an excellent place to start.
Because if I
having
was
that
black,
discussion.
I would have been a lot more scared, I think, than I was. And I was scared. And I was scared just to begin with. I mean, they pulled me over into like an abandoned construction site. There was nobody around, man. There was nobody
Yipes.
around. They could have put one in my head and buried me, and no one would ever know. No one would ever know.
We would have noticed when you didn't show up today. I mean, wait, where's Matt?
They would have never found my. Trust me, they would have never. No. Well, yeah.
So we have a divided country. We have a president who doesn't seem to understand why the country is divided.
Even though he promised when he first got elected that he would heal the divide in the country, and I said, okay, I'll give him a chance then.
I heard a lot of people say that they would give him a chance. We have a gentleman sitting out there in the lobby who is a Trump supporter. And this is no joke because he's a smart dude. He's a radio personality here in Connecticut now. He told me he voted for Donald Trump because Donald Trump said he was bringing back jobs.
Reasonable.
Okay. Legit. I said, well, what did you think Hillary Clinton was going to do?
Get rid of him.
Yes. He said, well, she never talked about that. All she talked about was, basically helping the underprivileged or minorities and things of that nature. And he didn't feel like the message was directed at him. And I mean, there's something to that, obviously. You look at these 4 special elections that have been held over the past couple of months.
Yes.
And they've all ended with Republican wins, despite the fact that the president's approval rating is in near toilet level.
It's the lowest it's ever been for a president ever.
And despite some of these candidates assaulting people right before the elections.
Which was absolutely insane.
Who? What are you talking about? I know what you're talking
where is he
about.
from? Wyoming?
It's somewhere out there, yeah.
Congressman Giaforte assaulted a reporter who asked about the health care bill.
Something that may or may not be on people's minds right now.
Right, because that's important. Because if you're a Republican, you're going to vote for it. And this reporter from The Guardian wanted to ask a question, and the congressman-to-be choked him out and then slammed him to the ground.
I do remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah, choked him out.
But here's the thing. You don't know where all the hate's coming from. I know people want to talk about this left-wing lunatic who went and shut up the Republican baseball game.
Had a list of targets.
It was targeting
That
Steve
guy?
Scalise.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I hope Steve Scalise is okay. I hope his recovery continues. I know he's been upgraded to fair condition
Not
or whatever
dying.
the case is. Yeah, he's going to be all right. But, I mean, this is a man who opposed Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a federal holiday. This is a person who, has defended the Confederate statues in his home state of Louisiana. I mean, he doesn't seem like a really warm and fuzzy guy. And I'm not saying anybody should ever resort to violence. And I think Bernie Sanders has been very clear all the way through that violence is not acceptable. That's not the way that you solve these things. You solve these things by going to the polls and by casting your vote. And that's what makes America so great. But when our number one frenemy is manipulating our elections. I mean, yesterday I saw 21 states were targeted by Russian hackers. Okay? And we feel like with certainty the intelligence agencies have said, we don't believe vote totals were changed. There's no evidence of that. You know, unless the Russians are really good at hacking and changing vote totals, and we just don't know it yet.
And we may just not know it yet, too. There's a lot that's completely classified that they've done a great job of holding secret. Something that we do know happened is they got in. They could have, if they wanted to, changed voter registration rules. And that's important because if a bunch of people aren't registered to vote, say from one party or the other, that in specific counties, if you target that right, maybe with the help of some American political operatives, it could turn out to sway an election. It really could. And that is scary. That's something we need to talk about. We need to get this done with and taken care of.
Plus, too, I just want to go back to what Joe was just saying about I have always felt that politics is a lightning rod for mentally unstable people on both sides.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like you said, the way to do it, unfortunately, is through the system. It's not to go and shoot up people. You know what I mean? Like the gunman who was shot up the club there. Remember not too long ago?
In Florida? Omar Martinez.
Yeah, he said he was doing that for his country. Like, I don't understand why you're going into a club and shooting up a bunch of people for your country. How does that work for your country?
Not familiar with the Constitution.
But that's what I'm saying. Mentally unstable people.
Well, he was mentally unstable.
But they latch on to politics and they latch on to patriotism. They latch on to these.
It's an excuse.
Exactly.
To be a wackadoo.
It's important I think it's important to see it as an excuse, as something that's grappled a hold of instead of the actual reason for coming up with this idea of I'm going to shoot some people. Usually it's not in these cases specifically because of that, and it just comes out of the politics alone.
Right.
We do have some violent rhetoric in the country. But
yeah, listen, I mean, I don't think it was cool what Kathy Griffin did, and I don't think it's cool for Madonna to say she wants to blow up the White House, or Johnny Depp just last night.
That's just
don't do that.
Making a John Wilkes Booth reference, I thought
just
that was kind of needed, Johnny Depp.
Yeah,
a little historical on us. But again, right now, listen, there doesn't need to be violent rhetoric going around on either side. I think we should all be able to just agree on that, and I feel like. It's a lot like the situation in Israel and Palestine, where it's you started it, no, you started it, no, you started it.
They're a bunch of children,
and it's always tit for tat. And when you get into a tit for tat battle,
an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind.
You couldn't have said it any better.
That wasn't mine, but somebody said it.
I think it was Gandhi, but so thanks for not trying to take credit for something Gandhi said a long time ago.
But it's not just about the fight. My thing is this: we don't have to talk about the size of Donald Trump's hands or his hair or anything like that. All that stuff is stupid.
But it's funny.
But look at his policies and his politics. It's all there. You don't have to make fun of his hands.
That's less funny.
Let's talk about the fact that, he on air with his daughter sitting there said, if Ivanka wasn't my daughter, I'd probably be dating her. And everyone was like, ew.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, ew.
Everybody but him because he doesn't get it.
Right. Well, how does he not get it? That's what I don't understand.
I believe Donald Trump, and I'm no doctor, but I believe that he just has a really hard time recognizing his own creepiness. I think, and
most creeps do.
I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist, but I think if you ask the average creep if he's a creep, he would say no.
Right. Darth Vader doesn't know he's the bad guy.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think in Darth Vader's mind, no, he believes he's the
hero of his own story.
He's got to crush the rebellion.
He's just Luke's father. Just don't make the villain.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the Russians canceled meetings with the Americans, which were meant to sort of hash out all these issues. Because Russia, and I love this, Russia plays like offended. Us? Meddling in your election? No. Here's the thing, though, Russia. You've been doing it to other European countries for years.
Meddling in their elections?
Meddling in their elections.
In their one-sided
Especially all of the
BS
former
elections.
Soviet satellite countries, Ukraine and places like that. So it's a tried and true method. They just decided, or at least
let's go big.
we think this is the first time. I don't even know if we know that. I don't even know if we know whether or not Russia's been actively trying to manipulate us before. One would assume this probably wasn't the first time. Did they go for the presidential election first? How about
So what?
how
They
about-
wanted Mitt Romney in office back in 2012?
No. I'm not talking about 12. I'm talking about the midterms of 14
Okay.
that brought the Republicans to power. How do we know Russia wasn't involved in that? Do we know that? Is that being investigated? Listen, here's the thing. However all of these 4 investigations turn out, if Hillary Clinton ends up in jail, I would be all right with that. Honestly. If they look at everything and they find something, boom, that's fine by me. As long as Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions and the rest of those guys get what's coming to them. Right. Anybody who's been leaking information, whether it be Loretta Lynch or whomever, put them all in jail. I am all right with whoever has done something wrong should pay the price. Again, I think Democrats and Republicans should both agree on that. If Hillary Clinton really broke laws, if there's more to her situation with Russia, that should all be part of the investigation. Leaks? I know Jason Chaffetz has a thing for leaks.
Apparently, the president may as well in Russia.
Different leaks.
See, again, whatever.
I think all of this should be investigated. I'll go back to what I said before. The FBI doesn't have an investigation going on for over 12 months if there's nothing happening.
Yeah.
Okay? It's as simple as that.
What astounds me is people who claim to be innocent that don't want the investigation anyway. I feel like getting it over with would be a great thing, and I understand that people don't want to, turn over a stone and pull out a string and keep pulling at it, and something comes up. But I also understand that in this time period, with our political discourse as dramatic and hateful as it is, it's important to kind of get to the truth of every matter, just to get it settled so no one's pointing fingers anymore. The investigation's over, nobody's done anything wrong. We can move forward and maybe get something done. Maybe. I might be naive.
That's exactly what Trump was saying not that long ago, a couple weeks ago, where he was saying, we need to get back to running the country, which is exactly what Obama said about the birther thing. Like, we don't have time for this. So, both sides are saying the same thing,
But he eventually released a long-form birth certificate, putting that to rest, except for with Donald Trump, who took 2 more years to admit
still have
it.
not seen his tax returns because whatever.
Now, we've been talking a really long time right here. And what just occurred to me was we really barely mentioned the healthcare bill. We mentioned it early on.
The what?
It's a horrible bill. I realize
Healthcare.
Obamacare.
Who knew it was such a difficult subject? Yeah, at least, I think one guy knew.
I realize Obamacare is not the greatest system in the world. It's a system that could be fixed. And we know this. And the whole reconciliatory budget stuff where, the money has to sort of all equal up. Obamacare could be fixed. And I would say this to Donald Trump and the Republicans. If you fix Obamacare, you could change the name of it. You could call it Trump Care. You could call it Republican Care. Call it whatever you want.
I don't know if people want the kind of care Trump would offer.
Trump Care.
Yipes. All right, well, that's the weekend review. We'll try a little bit harder next week. We're talking about politics. No, I'm just kidding. It was a joke.
Yo, did you see Nancy Pelosi getting blasted on Fox News last night?
No.
Oh, man, Tucker Carlson. I hate that guy.
That guy's the worst.
He is the worst. He is the worst.
Well, we're going to get into some of that stuff, too, because forget not, I was a Republican for many, 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 many years. And it's gotten to the point where, personally, I feel like the agenda for the Republicans is sort of like a joke. It's like, what do you like? I like the opposite. It doesn't matter how outrageously stupid it is. Whatever you like, I'm just going with the opposite. And I say, like, for instance, this is, but the transgender bathroom thing. I mean, we just can't all universally be like, you know what? You're already going through some shit. You know? Why don't you go wherever you feel comfortable? And by the way, don't molest anybody.
You know, I saw
if you don't mind.
In Ion restaurant out in Middletown, they have a sign. There's a women's bathroom for, you know, mothers who want to change their children and everything. And then the other one's just like, whatever, just wash your hands.
Yeah. That's how it should be. You use the toilet. Don't go, if you go on the seat, wipe it off. Wash your hands and get out. Who's listen, I mean, other than young women who take pictures of themselves in bathrooms, what do you do in the bathroom? I don't make eye contact with anybody in there.
Dude, you know what?
I'm not looking to meet people.
That is the worst for me when you're trying to take a poop in a public bathroom and you got two guys come in and they're like, hey, John, hey, Carl, how's it going? Hey, step into my office. Let's have a 20-minute conversation while this dude's trying to take a dump in the stall.
I had a coworker who, on 3 different occasions, while I was pooping, came into the bathroom. I don't know if he saw my shoes or how he decided it was me, but put his face up to the door, looked through the crack, looked me right in the eyes, and was like, hey, is that you, Joey? I'm not kidding. 3 times. He did this 3 separate times to me.
Man. I'd be like, get
and I
out
was
of
like,
here.
You know, I'm good.
What's
How are
wrong
you?
with these
It's me.
people?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's me. How's it going?
I
You know, what the hell?
I had another coworker once standing there. It was at a Christmas party, and we were, you know, maybe we'd had a few drinks or whatever, but we're standing there. He's like 6'5". I'm 5'5". And we're peeing, and he starts asking me stupid questions about weird stuff. And all of a sudden, I turn, like, in his direction, and he was like, he was looking right down at my junk. Straight guy, right?
But still, like,
It's
what the
weird.
hell, man?
What are you looking for?
I was in a bathroom just a
Keep
couple
your head straight.
days ago, and these 2 guys are standing in a urinal, just having a conversation. I'm like, how are they talking to one another? I can't pee. I can't even pee when someone's trying to talk to me. You know?
I'm with you. There's
Called
protocol.
stage fright.
There's protocol. There's places where you don't talk to people, and that
do
really
not
is one of
speak to
them.
me when I'm in the bathroom, please. I don't think that's too much to ask.
No.
I really don't.
If my junk is in my hand,
That's probably a good.
you should not speak to me.
Pardon the pun.
I'm serious.
Hard and fast rule.
Yeah. If I'm in the bathroom, if I'm on a park bench, if I got my junk in my hand, don't talk to me. It won't be good for anybody. Trust me.
Park bench.
You've been warned.
I just don't know how these guys carry on these conversations in a bathroom. Like, come on, man.
I don't either. I really don't.
But to get back to what you were saying about the Republicans,
Yeah.
they were blasting Nancy Pelosi, who I think is a. You know what I've noticed is they can't believe how hateful the Democrats are. They just can't believe it. And it's like, what do you think was going on the whole last 8 years? You know?
Listen, at the mere mention of the Democratic candidate, they would break out into a lock her up chant.
Right.
And you don't understand the hostility?
I mean, just not that long
Really?
ago, Ivanka, who I like. I mean, I like Ivanka Trump. I really do. I think she's put up with some really terrible, weird stuff with her dad, like on live TV. But she said, like, they weren't expecting all of this hate. And it's
Yes.
like, what?
My dad's so kind and so loving and so caring that why would there be this level of hatred?
Yeah, I don't understand
doesn't add
why
up.
there would be a level of hatred for an office where someone was literally shot in the head for being the president.
Don't you think that
Sorry.
that's possibly the most disingenuous thing anyone in the White House has said? I mean, where somebody
No.
really truly meant it, wasn't just outwardly lying, but really truly believed the words she was saying. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why everybody hates my dad.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I mean, in the midst of all of this nonsense, that health care bill.
The vampire bell.
But this, I mean, what a distraction this thing is.
Yeah.
What a distraction it is. I will say this, though. If the FBI's been investigating for over a year, and these intelligence officials can't say yes or no in public, one has to assume the answers are always yes.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Is the president under investigation? I can't answer that in an open setting.
Why not?
The answer is not no. Is the one thing I'm certain of. The answer is not no, because if it was, ask me that question.
Is the president under investigation?
No. Right? And it's, okay, this whole thing's, it's solved.
No.
He didn't do it. There was no collusion. So, okay, great. Well, now we could move on.
But it's not like that.
But instead, it's like...
Let me get back to you on that.
Did the president send emails to Vladimir Putin looking for collusion? No. Is the president under investigation for collusion?
Collusion,
I can't
as I like to
answer
call
that
it.
question in an open setting.
Right. So the answer is...
So the answer is definitely not no.
Right.
Like maybe it's no with some caveats, but it's not just no. Right? Are we all there? Again, the FBI would have investigated. 3 months. I don't see any evidence of collusion. There was some communication. There was some exchanging of ideas. There was some...
The word comrade was thrown around.
Inappropriate conversations had. But we don't see any collusion. Let's end the investigation.
But there's like 4 going on right now.
Right. Let's have 4 investigations. Who approved a special counsel? Do we know?
I don't.
The Assistant Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein.
Rod Rosenstein.
He's a Republican. He's Jeff Sessions' assistant, basically. He looked at the evidence as presented to him and was like, oh, shit, we need a special investigator for this. I mean, what more do you need? I guess is my question.
I don't know, but like they said, Trump, you're not going to throw Trump under the bus. Trump is the bus.
Oh my God. Use that.
It's the truth, though.
That's our line. That's our line of the day. Trump is the bus.
You're not going to throw him under the bus. He is the bus.
Let me ask you all this. When I say Russia, what do you think of?
Think of those hats.
Okay.
Yeah, cold.
The hats.
Cold.
Michael, what do you think
Cold.
Anastasia.
of? Okay. What do you think of?
Cold.
Cold. Okay.
Cold.
When I say Russian government, what do you think of?
I was going to say Stalin, actually. That was the
First
thing that came to my mind.
So you went with communism.
Well.
When you say Putin, what are you thinking? Are you thinking democracy or are you thinking authoritarian dictator?
KGB.
Okay. Interesting you mentioned that. Do you know what Vladimir Putin's job was?
Yeah, that's why I bring it up.
The head of the KGB.
He's a former. I thought he was just a former agent. He's the head of it.
He was the head of the KGB.
I see.
So let me ask you this. Because I hear people say, shouldn't we be friends with Russia? Isn't that good? Shouldn't we want to be friends with the Russians? And you're like, oh, yeah, we should want to be friends with the Russians, right? That's why we had like a 50-year Cold War and a nuclear arms race in hopes that at some point we could be like, are we cool? Is the Cold War now a cool war?
Cool war.
Right? It's all good. We're all cool. Here's the thing, right? So in 1991, as I'm sure you're all aware,
I was a junior in high school.
the USSR, the Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic, collapsed under the weight of itself. They ran out of money. That's why all those countries underneath, Ukraine, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, that's why they're all independent countries, because Russia could no longer afford to have all of those satellite countries. So what was a communist society, right, where the only people who had money were the people running the country. And does anyone else know who else had money in Soviet Russia? Anyone want to guess? Was
No clue,
it?
man.
I'll give you multiple choice here.
Yeah.
Was it good quality people?
I'm thinking not.
Was it criminals?
Right.
Most likely criminals.
It was. I'll tell you exactly what
I
it
saw
was.
a lot of James Bond movies
It was
from that
Russian
era.
mobsters. Okay.
Right.
Because those were the only people who could get
I
stuff.
played GTA 4.
Yeah, see, you know.
Great game.
The Russians. After the sell-off of 1991, who do you think had the money to buy industry and businesses in the former Soviet Russia? Anybody?
The mob.
The mob.
The Russian mob.
The Russian mob. You've heard the term the oligarchs? We've all heard that term
Yeah.
in reference to the oligarchs of Russia. People who we believe Donald Trump owes money to. A lot of money. We know that there was at least one deal where he sold a condo that he bought for $63 million
I think I know where this is
for
going.
$95 million with no work done to the house a year later. I mean, it seems like somebody gave Donald Trump $37 million. Just straight up. Here you go. Right? Who in Russia would have that kind of money?
Russian
criminals.
mobsters.
An oligarch, which equals Russian mobster. Now, there was a struggle for power in the late 90s between the oligarchs and the KGB. Guess who won? KGB. See, the oligarchs realized that the only way to internationally make their presence felt and to double, triple, and quadruple the millions they already had was to back Vladimir Putin. That's the face of the Russian mafia, basically. Now, funny story. Donald Trump made a fortune in what famous New Jersey resort town? Matt? Michael?
No. It's a famous gambling city.
Yeah. It's not Las Vegas. It's the bastard stepchild. Atlantic City.
Thank you.
All right.
Damn it!
Now,
I
as we
knew
all
that.
know,
I knew that.
Donald Trump had multiple casinos in Atlantic City. Let me ask you, who do you think owns casinos in Atlantic City? Do you think it's uncorrupt, legit businessmen? Or do you think it's people with mob ties?
I'm gonna go with mob ties.
Mob ties, yes. Ding, ding, ding.
Are those like zip ties?
So you've got
bow ties?
You've got a guy. Listen, Donald Trump has some mafia connections, whether he is aware of them or not, because you don't do business in Atlantic City and the mob is not involved. That's just the thing. That's just how it goes. All right? So you've got a Russian mob, which we now know has a presence in the United States, and a president with ties to the mafia. Does anybody see how easily this could all come together?
So what you're saying is, of course Donald Trump wants to have a good relationship with Russia because of
And of course, Russia wants to have a good relationship with Donald Trump. It's a guy they know they can do business with because they have.
This is a nice country, Donald. It would be a shame if something happened to it.
Now, I think we're all also aware that there is $500 billion worth of oil in the Arctic, up in the Arctic Circle. And as we all know,
I was not aware of that. Excuse me.
Nobody owns the Arctic Circle. So the Russians,
Except the aliens that are down there.
the reason why the Russians annexed Crimea was because it's a port that easily would have ships go into the Arctic Circle to get the oil. The only thing stopping the Russians from getting that oil, anybody? Sanctions. Sanctions.
I was going to say that.
When the sanctions get lifted, that oil is for the taking. Now, you may have
Who's
heard
imposing those sanctions?
Congress.
Us.
Yes. And to the Republican Party's credit, to the Republican Senate and congressmen, they've all done everything they can to keep those sanctions in place because they know what's really going on. All right, now it's time for Breaking Fake News. Woohoo! Where we'll take a look. I think this week's Breaking Fake News, it's a very easy one this week. We're going to talk about the Alex Jones and Megyn Kelly interview on her new show on NBC, which ran on Father's Day. Good choice, NBC, with grieving fathers in Newtown, a couple of whom I know. You give Alex Jones and InfoWars, which is the fakest of fake news, a spotlight on primetime television on Father's Day. Right. Slight credit to NBC Connecticut, who succumbed to much pressure across the state by everybody to finally decide not to air the interview on Sunday night. We did take a look at it online. I've talked about Alex Jones on this podcast before. I will say it again. He is a disgusting human being and an opportunist. He's a person who, as we know from his recent trial with his wife over custody of the kids, that he's a bit of an actor. He's just playing a bit of a role. He's just saying things for the sake of ratings and money. And there are so many suckers out there who just want to believe this stuff, who are conspiracy theorists, that they buy into it. And it's, here's the thing, and here's how you could tell an interview, an article from Breitbart or from somewhere like InfoWars. You'll actually read this. You know where most legitimate news organizations will quote a source or they'll quote something specific? With InfoWars, they'll use sentences like, many people are saying. Right. Which, I mean, to get many people, you need like 2 or 3 of your buddies to agree with you. And suddenly many people, and you're now putting out something that you want to, pretend to be truth. He's not a good person.
What are you looking at me for?
I
agree.
Alex Jones's guts. I don't like people who are not genuine, and he suggested in his trial that he really is just an actor. I don't understand why. I mean, we never gave Stephen Colbert on the Colbert Report. He didn't get. They didn't cover that on the news every time he made some kind of a joke because
sometimes
it was a character.
Yeah, if it were covered, it was covered as a joke. What we're about to hear is an interview on a major news network on a Sunday night show, speaking what he believes to be the truth.
It's disturbing. It's sad that NBC and that Megyn Kelly felt the need to go after ratings so hard, but here's what you missed.
Yeah, and a warning, it's some of what he'll say is certainly triggering and disturbing to some families in the state.
Here he is on InfoWars in December 2014.
But it took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
You said the whole thing is a giant hoax. How do you deal with a total hoax? It took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake. I did deep research, and my gosh, it just pretty much didn't happen.
At that point, and I do think there's some cover-up and some manipulation, that is pretty much what I believe. But then I was also going into devil's advocate, but then we know there's mass shootings and these things happen. So again...
But you're trying to have it always, right?
No, I'm not.
If you wrongly went out there and said it was a hoax, that's wrong.
But what I already answered your question was, listeners and other people are covering this. I didn't create that story.
But Alex, parents, one after the other, devastated.
I will sit there on the air and look at every position and play devil's advocate.
Was that devil's advocate? The whole thing is a giant hoax. The whole thing was fake.
Yes, because I remember even that day, if I go back from memory, then saying, but then some of it looks like it's real. But then what do you do when they've got the kids going in circles in and out of the building with their hands up? I've watched the footage, and it looks like a drill. I looked at all the angles of Newtown, and I made my statements long before the media even picked up on it.
And that is not true. Most of what he said there just isn't true.
Most of what he said there is not true to the point of being. I don't know where to categorize it, because even having listened to that multiple times before it just got played, it still affects me in an emotional way that it makes me angry, and I don't know how to feel about it.
All I can think of is what my grandmother always says. Matthew, the problem with being the devil's advocate is that you have the devil as a client.
Oh, your grandmother was a sage. I like that. You know, for him to try to pretend and push it off, well, it wasn't me, it was the listeners and the media. No, it was you. You said it. You said it was fake. You said that you researched it and that it was fake. But the thing is if you would have researched it, you would have learned the exact opposite, that it was true. But in reality, what Alex Jones means to say is it fit his agenda, and that's why he used it. And the media and his listeners seized on it. The media obviously rejecting the notion and his listeners embracing it. And he doesn't really disavow what he did at all. I mean, he pretty much stuck to his guns on that.
Doubled down, even.
He doubled down.
Yeah, and let's hear Megyn Kelly making that exact point.
In our interview, we asked Jones numerous times what he now believes, and he never completely disavowed his previous statements.
I tend to believe that children probably did die there. But then you look at all the other evidence on the other side, I can see how other people believe that nobody died there.
Again, I'm going to blame other people. I can see how other people would think that after I planted the seed for a year. I mean, are you kidding me?
I could see why.
You could see why people would think that, because you were the idiot who was saying it. You were the person who said, I researched it, I looked at it from every angle, and it was a hoax. And people believed you. And you're surprised that, I mean, again, and I could see where him and Donald Trump I could see why they would click, because it's the same thing. Oh, I know I said that. I didn't really mean it. People might have seized on
the whole drain the swamp thing. I didn't think that was going to take off.
Your words, not mine. Those were your words.
Right.
I mean, it's mind-boggling. Again, shame on NBC for even giving this guy the platform. I know, Megyn Kelly is a good journalist. She wanted ratings. That's what she wanted. And he's been in the news. It's inexcusable journalism. That's how I feel about it. I don't think a light needed to be shown on this guy.
Journalism is stretching it to this point. When you do it so much for ratings and so much for the shock value, it becomes less about what the truth is and getting to the bottom of it. Because as you heard, they didn't really get to the bottom of it. They're like, oh, look at this crazy person. He's crazy. Let's move on. And nothing really got said there.
You know what I'm also reminded of is when he keeps talking about how he researched it. I'm reminded of flat earthers. Well, I've done all this research, and the Earth is flat because I studied it for 2 years. Negating the hundreds of years and scientists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The moon landing. I saw this YouTube video that it was not waving in the wind. There was wind there. There wasn't wind there. The shadow was wrong.
It must be. Yeah. It's like,
jet fuel can't melt steel.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
When someone goes on about how they've researched it, that's when that's almost like somebody defending themselves as a fool for a client kind of a thing.
Does anybody remember when it was only like really wacko racist, like
Morton Downey Jr.
who were buying into that stuff? Now, I mean, and this is my fear, is that Megyn Kelly and NBC are going to make this more of a mainstream thing.
Yeah, it's being normalized.
And that's right. I think that's the thing that we've been trying to stop. Now, we know from all the testimony we've heard recently. I recently had a conversation with a very intelligent member of my family. And I don't want to call anybody out here because she's a smart person, but
so not the cat.
She said to me the reason she didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, one of the reasons cited, was that she was suffering from an illness, syphilis, that she caught from Bill. Yeah, guess where that story came from?
Oh no,
Breitbart.
You bet.
Was it Breitbart?
Yep.
I was just guessing.
Another family member of mine actually said to me, I never trusted that Obama. He's a Muslim, you know.
Right. Or the people that thought that Hillary was running a pedophile ring out of a pizza place in New York,
Pizzagate?
out of the basement.
I mean,
that pizza place doesn't even have a basement.
All of these fake
part of the
news
conspiracy.
things have come from Breitbart and from InfoWars.
And we should mention other places on the internet too. Those two are certainly the
They're
main
the biggest of
powerhouses.
ones. Correct.
But there's plenty of other.
I worry about smaller ones getting more traction, especially during the course of this presidency, where you have the president calling up Alex Jones saying, "Hey, good job, thanks for making me president."
Okay, yeah, come on over to
essentially.
the White House. We'll have lunch.
Yeah,
Well, these people are getting White House press credentials.
yeah. Again, legitimizing the organization and the kind of, I don't want to call it journalism, the kind of bait blogging, if you will.
Bait blogging. Dude, trademark that right there, man.
I'm on
Is
it.
it insane that fake news sites are getting White House press credentials?
Well, if you look at the content of those sites and you match them up with Trump's agenda, it's really not that crazy, is it?
No.
It's
It actually makes perfect sense.
I'm telling you right now, you can't normalize this sort of behavior. This sort of stuff can't happen. And for NBC, which is a very left-wing sort of network in general, to shine a light, as they say, was a huge mistake. And I think this is
well,
something.
maybe they were just trying to give him enough rope to hang himself.
I don't know if you saw too, where Alex Jones released tapes of Megyn Kelly trying to reassure him that it wasn't going to be a gotcha piece. That was never the intention, to get Alex Jones or to trip up Alex Jones. It was meant for ratings, and that is the world we live in. It's all about audience size and ratings these days.
The second you sit down to interview Alex Jones, it's a gotcha piece, no matter what. No matter what. It's
just inherently, it
just
should
by
be.
definition.
And yet somehow it wasn't. I don't know. I can't explain it, but we're going to keep our eye on the fake news. That way, you know,
easy.
it should be, unless you're my aunt. That's the week in fake news.